Buongiorno, everyone. It is the top of the hour, 1 p.m. EST. So I'm going to get started if folks are ready. Today's class, for everyone who's wondering, is going to be basically how to make a website from scratch. This is going to be a new type of stream for me because I've not done technical stuff on stream before. I've got about 8 different windows that I need to capture, and any of them could crap out on me for any reason at any time. So this might be a different kind of technical adventure where I learn how to stream while you all learn basics of Web Dev 101. So hopefully we're all going to be in for a good ride. Let me turn my BGM back on, but quieter this time. There we go. Otherwise it'll just be dead silence other than me talking, which is a little unnerving, I think. But yeah, okay. So what do I want to show? Let's see. Hotkeys, show localhost. There we go. I believe it was Carl Sagan who said, in order to invent a website or in order to build a website from scratch, you must first invent the universe. We're not going to be doing that part today, but assuming that a universe has already been built for you, there are a couple pretty easy ways to get started in your web dev adventure. Let's see, what do I want to do? Let's bring this over to here. And I guess before I get started, what's everyone all up to today? Do you have fun plans before, after, during this probably power hour, 2 hours I'm going to be up here for? I'm very curious. The weather finally got nice around here, so I was able to take our tortoise outside for a little bit. So that was exciting. My repositories. There we go. Let's see. Learning about website building before going into work. When does your shift start, my man? I gotta know. I gotta know how fast I can go. Or how fast I need to go. I gotta cram all that knowledge in, because there will be a test. 1 hour. Alright. We've got our work cut out for us. I'm gonna teach you how to build a website in 1 hour then. And then you can do that instead of being a barista if you want. Throw together a post for our Vapor Jam game. Hell yeah. Post on what? Like Twitter? Like, do you have a blog? All stuff I'm interested in. Alright, cool. There's terminal. Let's see. two windows captured. Alright, CD. And the last one that I need is my notepad. There we go. Okay. So, let's see. Patreon, and a little one on Twitter. Awesome. I'm excited to see it. Vapor Jam sounded cool, rather. You made some neat looking stuff. So let's see. Let's lower the font size on this a little bit. How's text looking? Is it legible? That's another big concern of mine, is like I don't know how to fit all this crap on screen while making it legible. I think this is probably good. But, you know, we'll see. Okay. So, first tool. Command line. People are always really intimidated by command line. But I don't think it's that scary, provided you stick to what you know. It's a direct access into telling your computer what to do, and it will do exactly what you tell it to do. In that sense, it's very safe and reliable because you know what you're telling it to do. There's no ambiguity. There's no press a button and it does something on your behalf. You are giving it a command. It's a little crunchy, but I'm also not full screen. Def readable though. Good. Yeah, so you're giving it a command, and you know exactly what you're telling it, provided you know what the command means. People get scared of command line because they will read things off of helpful websites like Stack Overflow, where people are just trying to help, and they're like, oh, run this command, and they don't really explain what it does or why it does what it does. So it can be scary in that sense. But if you can find, information, documentation about the command you're trying to run, it's very safe, it's very reliable. So, I've got my little notepad in the top right of the screen. I've got my terminal in the bottom right. I've got GitHub in the back because I'm going to be hosting or saving my code to GitHub, which is a version control software. I have no idea how granular I need to be also. But I'm going to assume that people who are coming to this might already be familiar with concepts like version control, which is basically like saving your code to the cloud. That way, when you destroy your local computer or you mess up your code in a way that you don't know how to recover, you can ask version control for the latest copy that you saved, and you can get it back and restore it. And other people can download it also from the cloud if it's public, which this is going to be. This is going to be an open source. I'll share the repository link over Twitter after today's stream, so you can follow along at home if you want. But that's kind of enough dawdling. So let's see. First step for building a website is making sure you have a place to put it. And I don't mean hosting it yet. I literally mean on your local drive. So we are going to clone our Git repo, which is where we're going to be saving all of our code into. To do that, we just need to go to our terminal here. I'm in my folder where I save all my Git repos, and I just do git clone. And then I take this URL that I've highlighted here, which is where it is. Boom, clones. It's an empty repository. That makes sense. And cool. So now we have a folder where we can look at all of our stuff. So I'm going to now file open folder. In here, there should be a Skeletom net folder. Yes. Select folder. Perfect. Yes, I trust the authors. I'm going to be today switching a lot back and forth between VS Code, which is my editor of choice. It just makes typing JavaScript very easy because it has a couple helpful pointers and things like that where it will recommend the correct syntax and such. And my browser. I don't think I can get these both on screen, both have them be legible in a meaningful way at the same time, in addition to having my notepad with tools and my terminal open on occasion, so I hope this is, like, agreeable. If it's not, I'm open to suggestions. If people find that this layout is not conducive to learning how stuff works, or seeing how stuff works, crucially. Anyway, so I clone down an empty repo. It makes a folder, and currently that folder is completely empty, because there's nothing in the repo yet. So now, that introduces us to our next tool. We use JavaScript for pretty much everything on the web, because that is the language that browsers can interpret and run programming, run like code in that syntax. So we've got JavaScript, and crucially for JavaScript, there are two tools relating to it that we are going to use. The first one is called npm, or actually, I guess that's kind of an ass backwards way to talk about it. There's Node.js. Almost every website you use has embedded JavaScript on it, on the page that you're actively looking at. Like, for example, I can do, pop open the inspector here. Oh, wait, no, that's not what I want to do. I can go to localhost here on my GitHub, and I can use the inspect page, and I can look at it, and we can see under sources, this is like really peeling back the curtain. Under sources here, there should be somewhere. Maybe they're doing a very good job of obscuring it. Or maybe I don't quite know what I'm looking for. There should be like JavaScript files basically here. Assets, maybe? Yeah, okay. So these are all like super optimized where they're no longer human readable. But this is code that has been condensed down to be easy to serve. That is running literally on your browser. Oh, actually, hold on. I should... that's not super visible because it's behind my notepad. Right here. So this is JavaScript code that's running on this GitHub page in your browser because JavaScript can run in browser. So that's one way that JavaScript can be used. And that's, fine for making like cool animations happen or setting up like clicking events and things like that on your page. But there's another kind of way you can use JavaScript, and that's for actually running the server that serves you the page. So there's client-side and server-side JavaScript. And today, for the very basics of getting a web page up and running, we are going to be talking about the server-side JavaScript. Instead of having like an ASP.NET server or something like that, you can use what's called Node.js, which is basically the way you use JavaScript for running a long-running application. And in addition to Node.js, there's another tool called npm, which is the Node Package Manager. This is how you get different libraries that other people have built that have useful functions in them into your Node project. And it's the whole system for keeping track of those things and letting you share chunks of code with other people. It's really, really robust. Every time I use it, it feels like a miracle. So I think that's pretty cool. Let me move my terminal so it's not obscured by my background too much. So that's like basic tooling, and I haven't even written any code yet. Have I lost anybody yet? I feel like I've probably started rambling into things that maybe only I understand. So I'm interested to know how I'm doing elsewhere. If people are following along, if not, I will just, trudge along. At any rate, so we have that tool npm, and we now will navigate into the folder we just made, skeletom.net. cd is the current directory command. It tells your command line what directory you want to go into on Windows. So I tell it to go into the skeletom.net directory. We're now there. I can run the command npm init, and it's going to be skeletom.net, I believe is the way the syntax for this works. And this is going to essentially... Oh, wait, no, it doesn't like that. Oh, no. Just npm init, I think. All right. Yes, okay. Halfway there, not too bad. Okay, so npm init, when run in a folder, will basically set up the framework for a Node application into that folder. A Node application really doesn't need very much. It has what's called, and I'll show this in the editor in a second once it's done being made, but to explain what we're going to expect here, it's going to have a folder called package.json. JSON is JavaScript object notation. It is the way you describe data in JavaScript, basically. And so package.json has information like, what is this app's name? And what are all the Node packages that I need to include when I want to run this application? Then when you run the application, Node Package Manager will intelligently get all those packages from the cloud, install them, and be able to have all the code dependencies that you need. Just enough of this from QA. Yeah. Cool. Well, I hope I can help reinforce that, and it's not like you are left hanging and just having to remember what you learned. Okay, so I did npm init. It says, like, this utility will walk you through creating a package.json file. Like I said, it covers the common items, like what is your name? I believe if I hit enter, that's correct. Version 1.0.0, sure. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a 1.0 yet, but that's a good thing to start. Description, Skeletom's personal website. There we go. Entry point index.js. Sure. Entry point means for your application what script should run that kicks off basically every other script. In like Java or a similar programming language, this would be like your main class. Basically, what file does it execute that then sends off a chain reaction to every other system in your system, your app. Cool. Test command, I guess just test. Get repository is correct. Keywords, website, I guess. Author, Tom Skeletom. Oh, that's me. License, we can change that later. Is this okay? Yes. All right, cool. So now if I flip back to VS Code, here we have in our file hierarchy, we have our package.json. I'm going to hide terminal for a second. Yeah, so this is our very, 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 very basic package. It has no dependencies included in it right now. It has only one script that you can run. It says where it got the code from. It says who made it. Doesn't do a whole lot yet. That's okay. So let's start breaking ground. This talks about how it wants to run a index.js, which we need. We don't have yet. So we can make a file in our IDE here, index.js. I'm going to hide that little logo thing in the corner because I realize it's kind of obscuring an important part of the IDE. So we can just make that go away. There we go, much better. I don't need to show the Visual Studio Code logo. I don't think they're going to care. All right, and now the world is our oyster here because we've got a completely blank slate, index.js. This is the file that we're going to have the main executable run. So what do we need to put in here to make something that can make a website? Well, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use one of those handy Node packages from the Node Package Manager. So we are in our directory here in terminal again. I'm going to type npm install Express. Express is a very, very tried and true web server library. And by typing npm install, we tell it to go find that. npm knows where it is, installs it instantly. If we look back at our package, we now see that there is a dependency listed. Dependencies is Express, latest version. So it was able to install. We now have access to Express. So we can do that with something like this. Const. I'm not going to go over too much like what the languages of, or what the syntax of JavaScript is. I don't mean this to be like a literal CS 101, but I did want to show off how to develop like a web app once you know what you're doing with JavaScript a little bit. So we're going to do const express equals require, because I'm not using TypeScript like some kind of animal, express, so that should be good. And then we can do const app equals new, or equals, and here's where I struggle because I can never remember syntax like I was just saying. So something I will often do is I will look at a previous, something I've done previously, because that's the best way to remember how to keep doing something. So let's look at, I made a website recently where folks who are Twitch affiliates or partners can host stuff, and I believe that would be a good place to look at how I set up the web server. So I'm going to open that up here. Here's a really filled out one that has like everything you need. Okay, yeah. This is the line I was looking for. We have our import of Express. We've got, and then you set up the application by doing app.express, or express like a function. There we go. Okay, so there's our app, and now we can start setting up routing to it, basically. Let's see, what else do we need to do to just make this thing run? I don't think I actually need to do anything. Yeah, I think that's fine. Okay, so we have our Express web server, and we have a thing where we're defining app. And if you want, I can now show basically how magic Node Package Manager is, because we've written literally 2 lines here, I guess 3 if you count the space, but I'm reasonably sure I can run npm run start. Does that work? Or is it going to complain that start is not a command? Node index.js. That do anything? No. Okay. I guess I'm missing something still. Did I save? Okay. I'm not quite sure what I am. Oh wait, yes I do. App dot. It is looking for a command. Sometimes code is, yeah, coding is just retroactively cheating off of your past self. That's 100% true. 100% true. So let's see. Let me open up another previous file, and I can pretty quickly find what I was looking for. Let me look at basically the index of the last thing I wrote. Yeah, okay. So we have our Express server. There's one other thing we need to do, and that is make it not just a server, but an HTTP server. So we can do that. HTTP is another standard library for dealing with web type stuff, and you basically create it. You run create server and listen. So these are the 2 functions we're going to want. I'll actually just copy this wholesale. This is no reason not to. I don't need to go over it line by line. Boom. We can have it listening on port. I believe port is just going to be 8080. Or let's make this parametric. Const port equals 8080. That is the web port it's going to be listening on. I can get rid of this because this is not relevant yet. Might not be at all. App. Okay, so now we've written a little bit more than 2 lines. We have 14 lines of code here. We have our imports. We set up a new instance of this Express thing that I was mentioning. We tell it what port we want it to run on. We make a server based on the Express thing. We basically say, okay, Express, you know how to serve this. The protocol you're going to use is HTTP. We tell that server to start listening for communication through that port. This second parameter here is telling it what to do when it starts up. In this case, we're just telling it to log the port. I can also be like started on port. There we go. And then, so this is all wrapped in a function, and we run the function in this index file. So now if I go and run node index, there we go, started on 8080. If I tab back to localhost here, and then what localhost means is it's basically the web server is running locally. It's not hosted on the internet yet. No one else can get in, but your machine is emulating what that would be like. If I go to localhost 8080, I get an error because it says cannot get index, which is better than if I wasn't running this. If I turn this back off again, use Control-C on Windows to terminate a process. It doesn't copy in terminal, it just kills. So I refresh this now that this is no longer running. I'll just get like an error, right? Bad request, invalid host. There's nothing running on localhost. But as soon as I turn on localhost, and it says it started on port 8080, when I refresh again, I get cannot get, which indicates that there's something happening. Something is, listening behind the scenes. So in just a mere 14 lines of code here, and you can definitely condense this to be fewer if you wanted to, you can essentially get a web server running, but that's not terribly useful on its own. Like, we just get an error now. So now how do you make this actually do something useful? Well, let's get cracking on that. Oh yeah, I should probably tab back to VS Code. I was just talking about all these lines of code without showing them. I'm probably going to do that a bunch because I have to keep switching back and forth. Yeah, so we've got 14 lines of code, and we already have a web server running. Awesome. Node is magic. It's really great to be able to rely on other people's software. And that is the foundation of the internet. Everybody builds a little black box. You trust that the black box works. You link all your black boxes together to do something bigger, and then you're very happy. Many of these black boxes rely on other black boxes, so you get like transient dependencies where Express itself has dependencies that need to be resolved, etc., etc. The fact that Node can manage all of this is part of what makes it a miracle program. I'm always constantly amazed by how well it works. Okay, so let's make this serve up something useful. Express has a bunch of helpful functions for like how to serve up content of any kind, any sort. I'm gonna do, without having any content of our own to host, because you can give it static content, which are like files, like web pages, images, other JavaScript to run in browser, and then you can make it do other kinds of things. Like I'm gonna do now app dot get. Here we go. And then the first argument of this is the URL relative to your, I guess it's top level, your domain. In this case, our domain is localhost. So, for example, if I type in here stream, this would mean that when I go to, and I'll add a comment here, this would be localhost :8080/8080/stream. Is what this URL would mean. And then I believe the second part of this is the handler, yes. Request response, and then you can do that kind of notation. So let's do rest.send hello. And then I think I need to give it a status. Or I need to give it a status first. The web is built on status codes, largely. A 200 status is okay. If you are interested in this kind of stuff, you can easily find references to what all these different status codes mean. You're probably familiar with like 404, which means page not found. 500 means like the server that you asked to do something died out from under you. 200 is okay, and then there are a lot of variations of things there in between. Like, for example, 204 means your request was okay, but we have nothing to give you back, but you didn't fuck up or anything. So they're all handy, and things where apps talk to other apps, they rely on these types of status codes to know if they're doing the right thing or not, or know if there's been a problem or not without human intervention. Okay, so I've added another solid 3 lines of code here. I'm telling our Express server when we do a GET request, which is basically anything you do through a browser, for /stream, we have a function defined inline here that handles the request and response. I'm telling the response to send back a 200 and send the word hello. If I'm correct, when I restart my server here, once again running 8080, flashing back to your time in the QA mines. I'm sorry, I don't mean to traumatize. Staring at error codes, the courier. Yup, you're not wrong. Okay, so I'm running my server again. It says it started on 8080. I'm going to flick back to localhost here. And I'm going to type in localhost 8080/stream. REAM. And there we go. This is a really, really small font because there's no styling, so I apologize. I can't really make this. I guess I could like do that. I've zoomed in to 500% in the browser, but there's our hello. So going back. Here we go. So we know that this is now working. This GET request is working, and it's doing exactly what we want. That's great. However, what I personally want, one of the very, very first things that I wanted to do with having this site here is I wanted to have a redirect to my stream. So I could give somebody a URL like skeletom.net/stream, and it would go to my stream URL. I want to do this because I am considering changing my handle here on Twitch to be more in line with my, I guess, character name, Skeletom, my acting name, my stage name, instead of what used to be my Twitter handle, or what is still my Twitter handle, but is, you know, my name. So I wanted to change it up, and I wanted to be able to give people a link that would like be persistent. So if I change that Twitch handle, I don't want to have all of my links break or people not be able to find me anymore. So I would like to be able to give them a URL that I've defined and have that go to where we want to go. So I'm going to comment that out, and I'm going to do another function that Express can do, which is redirect. And I believe I can give a whole URL, redirect to the given URL with the optional response status defaulting to 302. 302 is a redirect. It tells your browser that it needs to go somewhere else, and this is the part where it needs to go. So if I give this https twitch.tv/Vomtaro, I believe that's all I need to do. And so now when I go hit stream on my browser, instead of it printing out hello, it should just redirect me to my Twitch page, which is exactly what I want it to do. So let's try that again. Let's stop the server, run the server. You need to refresh the server every time, unfortunately, because it doesn't compile. JavaScript is not a compiled language. It is running a script, but it already basically ran the script that set up the server, and then it's just waiting. It's not like constantly rerunning those functions. Okay, so let's go back to localhost. Here's our hello. I'm going to refresh because I relaunched the server, and presto, there we go. It works exactly like I want. I have my stream muted in the background, fortunately, so I'm not going to hear an echo, but we can see this go on forever and ever. It works. That's exactly what I wanted it to do. So that's cool. That's great. So now, once I get this hosted, I'm going to go back before it becomes like the mirror world. Once I get this hosted, I can have it like be a redirect. And easily give people a persistent link to wherever I end up streaming. If I, jump ship to YouTube or God knows where else, I can just give people this link, have my server do a redirect for me, and they'll know where to find me. So that is something I definitely wanted to have as part of this site. So that was really easy to get running. If we go back to VS Code, I'm on 21 lines, plus white space. So really, really easy to get this kind of thing up and running. I'm not going to go over how to host this on like an actual domain on the internet today. I think I need to prepare that, not because I don't know how to do it, but because I'm not sure what part of that I can show that isn't like here's a sensitive key you need to tell the domain registry about in order to get your website going. I don't want to accidentally dox myself or things like that, so I don't know that I can show that on stream, but I can tell you that I use, well, actually, I'm not going to tell you what domain host I use. I can tell you that there's a lot of documentation on how to get things up and running. I typically host my websites on a website called Heroku, which I guess I can actually show. Maybe not today, but that'll probably be part 2. It's getting this actually hosted beyond localhost. Is what I'm planning on doing there. But today we're just going to build this out on localhost and get this to be, a website. So right now we have a single redirect, which is not a website. It is just a function, basically, that is now on the internet, or will be on the internet. We can do, let's see, so app.get. Let's give it, it keeps complaining you cannot get on the slash, so let's give it something to get on the slash, which is the home directory, basically, your at home. The base directory. What did I do wrong here? Oh, I forgot a comma. Okay, so let's see, what do we want it to do? How have I done this previously? Well, I'm trying to think what the most effective way to have this share a page would be. Right. Okay. Why am I not using app.use static in here? What's wrong with my brain? Use session. Oh, okay. I understand why. I'm looking at a previous web server I wrote, and I'm looking at get functions that I've written previously. For example, so this website was, or is, it still exists, it's subvault.net, where you can host stuff that then your Twitch subscribers can gain access to, kind of like how like Patreon works, where you are like a member, and so you get access to exclusive content, except I want to do something where people can use their Twitch membership to do that. And so I was wondering why I have this be kind of complicated. And it's because a lot of the pages need to be dynamically generated, because you need to be able to make a page for every person who is like on Twitch. So it generates that based off of information it pulls from Twitch. So I don't just have it serving up a static page. These are actually all dynamic. So maybe this is kind of a bad example for what we're trying to do here today. There is a function in Express. Let me go find, I guess, another web server that I've written for a previous web app that can maybe be more useful here. This one? Probably this one. This one will probably work. Web server launcher. Scripts. No. Server? No. Then I have to remember where I actually put stuff, is the other part. Web server. This is probably good. This is the web server for the website I have for our tortoise. This is a very, 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 very simple website. It's almost all exclusively static pages. This is what I was looking for. I will explain what this means in a second. But I can pop this in here, and we should be fine. Port, boom, base directory, app use, slash, instead of doing a get. Okay. I think this is just like that. Okay. And I need to do const path equals require path. Okay. Yeah. So we're getting another dependency. You notice that I had to do npm install for Express, but I didn't do npm install like HTTP or path. That is because Express is a third-party library, whereas HTTP and path are bundled with Node. Which is something I have had downloaded previously. Like, you do need to install Node, and so it comes with a bunch of useful things like that to begin with. But Express was made by the Express team, so I need to install it. So yeah, I don't need to do that for Path or HTTP. Fortunately, they are they come with it. Okay, so what am I telling this to do? I'm defining a base directory using path, which is a helpful tool for generating dynamic paths to files, because right now it would be very easy to be like, D drive, like I've got right here in my terminal. I could be like, I know where the file is. It's my D drive, git repos, skeletom.net, public folder, index, something like that. But when I deploy this, it's going to be on somebody's cloud server, which typically have like completely randomized file directory names. You wouldn't know what it is, but Path is able to figure that out. So we have this, which is a reserved name. _dir name is a special node word that means the current directory that this file that is currently running is being executed in. So that's like, where am I currently? And then we tell it to join that with dot, which means same level directory. So like, for example, if I tell my web server here, this is true for pretty much command line, for the internet, for anything. I can do current directory dot over here. I'll move my cursor out of the way, and that will move me up one level. And if I do cd dot, I don't go anywhere because that is the same level directory. So for example, if I type cd dot slash skeletom.net, that will take me current directory, then slash skeletom.net, which is where I am now. And I could do something like cd dot slash cococam, which is my tortoise website that I was just talking about. So this command will move me up a directory and then into cococam, and it works, and it's able to find that. So that's another, I guess, fun website or web building tidbit, is these dot operators. Single dot means, and it's not necessarily just web dev, it's just how to navigate files in this like very bare bones command line type way, which is what your server is going to be doing. Single dot means current directory, double dot means one directory up. So let's go back into skeletom.net's folder here. So what I'm telling this to do is the base directory to serve files out of is going to be adjacent to this index file, same directory, and then in a folder called /public, which we don't have yet. So let's make one. Public. This is very handy, and this is what prevents Express from letting anybody who knows what path your files are in from being able to access like server code from the front end. Because right now we don't have anything else in here. We just have this public folder, but I might as well make it now. We're probably going to make like a source folder, src, which is where all of our server code is going to live in. And we don't want somebody to be able to go to localhost and do like localhost 8080/source/ secretcode.js and be able to be served it. We only want them to be able to get stuff out of this public folder. So Express is very handy there, and it will give us the ability to do that. So we have our base directory. We tell it when you go to slash, this is your home directory. Use this as the frame of reference. Express static is for serving static files. We can go into our public now. We're going to make another file, new file, index.html. And now we have an HTML file, which is not particularly useful on its own, but I'm going to go ahead and write, hello, welcome to my web zone, with no HTML formatting or anything. The browser will complain, but it will still render. And now we can test that this works. So what I expect will happen is when I go to localhost 8080, I will be served this index file, because index is the special magic word that websites use, or web servers use to know as the root. So let's try that up. Let's fire up the server once again. Node index.js. Awesome. Where's my localhost? Here we go. Localhost 8080. Show localhost. There we go. Currently it's saying can't get slash. I'm going to hit enter again. And there we go. It is serving the HTML file that we just made. I can zoom this in to prove it. Hello. Welcome to my web zone. That's the exact text that we put on the HTML. If we do the inspector here, which is, I think, hidden behind my notepad, we can look at our elements. The browser is adding HTML syntax for us, which is very considerate of it, because we didn't do any of that on our own. But we should try and emulate this, because this is what HTML wants I don't know if it's going to complain to console, but it wants it to look like this. I can't zoom in the inspector, unfortunately. Oh, you know what actually I meant to have done this whole time, and I didn't do, is I probably should have increased the text size on my VS Code, because I'm guessing this is probably really, really, really small, and I could have turned it up the whole time, but I forgot, because it looks fine to me. Let's do that. Let's do settings, font, size. Let's up this to 24. So now if I go back here, that's probably a bit more legible, yeah? I realize I've been now streaming for almost an hour at like size 12 font, which is probably not super legible. I hope I've been doing an okay job describing what I've been doing, but I mean, it doesn't match actually being able to see the thing. Let's operate at this text size. This is much better. Oops, 1 second. I just accidentally closed my Twitch chat doc on OBS here. Twitch chat, come back to me. There we go. Okay. So where are we at? How are people feeling? Are people overwhelmed? Are people like, wow, this is really boring, I knew this? Are people like, wow, this is really boring, I didn't know this and I don't want to know this? How are we feeling, I guess? That's what I'm interested in knowing. I'll hide terminal now. Yeah, much better. I should have done this the whole time. I'm such a clown. It's difficult to remember to do that because I can see it just fine, but I imagine it doesn't come through on stream very well. Okay. What do we got here? What am I looking for? Okay, so we told Express to serve stuff out of the base directory here. Cool, that works. It doesn't just have to be for like this index file. So now, like for example, if I make a new file, which is going to be like secret dot, maybe secret's a bad word. About. Let's go with about. About.html. With paying no mind to formatting these properly. This website was made on stream by Skeletom on July 17th, 2021. There you go. There's your about. So now I don't have to rerun the server because the server ran with the command serving out of this base directory, and because we've added a new folder, it will check again when I make the request. So I'm going to go back to localhost here, and I'm going to zoom in from the start this time, and I'm going to go to localhost 8080/about. Never mind, cannot get about. Why? It should... Do I have to do like about HTML? There we go. Okay, it's mad because I need to include the file extension. But that is basically how these things work. Now, whenever I do a request based out of slash, it will try and mimic everything that comes after the slash out of that public folder. So this is how you serve up things like images or JavaScript or CSS, which is how you style a web page. So that's the handy function of static. I think, what do I do? What am I looking to do here? What would I like to do next? I guess let's actually just build some HTML. Let's get the index page actually formatted properly. We've got... Oh, close that. What is that? We've got text, which is cool, but that's not really how one does this. Doc type HTML. HTML should be like that. Head. This is where you put things like CSS or JavaScript that needs to run in the beginning. Body, like the body tag. There we go. Boom. So this is more properly formatted as HTML. Head will have things like meta tags, which tell your website how it's going to embed, which is, handy. Like when you post things on Twitter, for example, and the website has a cool embed, or Discord and has a cool embed. It's able to pull information out of this head, which when we put it in, I'll make self-evident. And yeah, that's how it gets that information without having to read the whole rest of the page or having to make any kind of guess. So that's what head is for. I'm following okay, especially considering I only have enough experience with site design to break it from front end. Hell yeah. Websites are very robust is kind of the cool thing. They're very... They will try very hard to render something to you on screen, which is commendable. They don't just crash typically like a compiled application would if it had a problem. JavaScript is very resilient. It will try very hard to come up with something to show you. Even if that something isn't what you want, it will try to avoid failure. How did I set these up on this other... Yeah, okay. That's right. Cool. I'll transfer this knowledge over to this new server as well, because this is maybe useful. So we tell it to use the slash and then get stuff out of the base directory. We can expand upon that with something like this. Let me format this more in line with how things are formatted. Here's a line from, again, my Tortoise's website, where we said when you go to /guestbook, it should give you the guestbook page. Here I made an about page, so I'm going to instead use that. We're going to do about. And this way I won't have to type for the file name. I will just be able to type about /about in the browser, and it will know that it means about.html, not to be confused with like about.js or an image or something like that. Yeah, so you can do send the file, and it will just send you the HTML file. We use path.join once again to join our base directory, which is our public folder, with this file, so you end up with the URL like public/about. My last QA job was almost exclusively on one site, and it is incredible the lengths that a page will go to just try and give you what it wants, including destroying other parts of itself. Thinks it'll help. Yes, JavaScript is so resilient. It's really commendable. I have to respect its tenacity, I guess. Tenacity is definitely the word I would use. It's does not want to give up. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So this is another, yeah, like I've explained, get tells it on the URL to do something. We're telling it to send a file, in this case the about.html. I'm not going to be too concerned with that just yet, but something I can do is we're going to add another directory into this public folder for images, img, and let's put a fun picture in there. One of my favorites. Copy that. Open. Where is open in File Explorer? There we go. I am behind the scenes. I am pasting a file into this folder. I'm not showing my Windows File Explorer though. Okay, so now you can see there is a file here called blush.png. Oh, I didn't know VS Code could open images. Hell yeah. This is the image. It's one of my favorites. Yeah, so let's show how this all functions together. Welcome to my web zone. We're going to add an image tag, img, source, equals img/blush.png. I love VS Code because it'll know, like, oh, I recognize this path. Here's all the images that are in /img relative to public here. So we can do that, close the tag, and if is my server still running? I closed my terminal, or I closed it on stream, put that back up. My server is running, so if I go back here, and I go back to localhost 8080 on the root, let's open up localhost, yeah, localhost, hell yeah, perfect. I'm zoomed in 500%, but it's my face. Let's reset, there we go. No formatting whatsoever, so it's like, got it. You want text and then an image, but it got the image. It knows how to serve the image, and this again ties back to, on our server here, we're telling it to load files out of this static directory. Static files come out of public, and in our public folder over here, we have /images and blush, and that mirrors how on the directory here, this index file is coming out of public, and then it goes up to image, which we have, and then blush. So basically the way you serve files out of a page should mirror the file structure of the directory that the page is actually in. And then you can tell Express to serve things out of that whole directory. And it works. Yeah, I could do a MIDI. Chrome does not support playing things automatically, but I can get it to play as soon as you click on the page or something like that. Could be fun. I think I'll definitely save like heavy styling like that for probably part 2. I don't know how long I want to go today. Turns out actually narrating and explaining every line of code you write is somewhat exhausting. But I also don't just want to sit here in silence and like slam out code, because I did kind of promise this would be like somewhat educational. I don't know if it has been, but I'm at least, I guess, trying. So okay, we're gonna make some divs, which are dividers on the web page. This will specify how to break things up. Div, which should put the image and the text on separate like lines, kind of like in a tabular way, I think, without any styling. It's been so long since I've hit like bare metal HTML with like no styling. If I refresh this, are we good? Yeah, okay. There we go. With 2 divs in place, this is one division of the page, and the image is a second division of the page, so they are now on separate lines. Cool. Yeah. Dominated and I crunched absolutely to death. No pause button in sight. Yeah. Modern browsers try and protect you from stuff like that because they realize it's really annoying, or potentially a security vulnerability to just be able to run files with no input from God knows where. But they will basically allow that to happen as soon as the user makes an input on the page. This is also largely to prevent things like ads, like embedded advertisements, from running arbitrary files on your browser without your consent. Because if things could just run with no input, somebody could serve you a ad that has an audio file or JavaScript in it that will then execute, and it could do whatever. Just because something looks like an audio file does not necessarily mean it is an audio file. It just means we know how to tell the computer to think it looks like an audio file. So you don't want to be able to run files with no input. It's a recipe for disaster. But back in the day, it was the Wild West, so nobody knew anything. And yeah, you could do that. Okay. What do I want to do here? Let's add some comments. Because this is going on a public GitHub repo, and as I said, I'd share this with everyone in a tweet so we can follow along at home and watch the evolution of this thing in real time. So let's do some comments. I know a lot of people are like, but comments, take so much time. What's a good comment? Typically, I think good comments in code, and this is beyond just web dev, this is in general from my experience as a professional software engineer, is that good comments should explain why you did something, not so much how you did something. Like the utility of why does this function exist. For things that are like really opaque, like really complicated algorithms, it may be okay to explain the how in human readable language, but I typically think that the best comments are the why, not the how. You don't want to explain how something is doing something. You want to explain what reason you need it to do the thing. It's a really interesting angle, actually. It explains a lot about how the internet ad sphere has changed. I'm assuming you're talking about what I was just saying before about not running arbitrary code in browser. Yeah, it's not it's safe, but there's always like the opportunity for people to find a new exploit and things like that, and it's like an arms race in that sense. Okay, so app use. What am I doing here? Okay, tells Express to serve create the base directory. And then I guess I can give an example, i.e. localhost colon 8080 slash img slash blush .png corresponds to public slash img blush .png. That's maybe a bit more verbose than I would make a comment for myself, but again, I wanted to... Oh, I'm gonna hide my tools, or maybe move them, because I think we've established that we're good over here. People know what tools I'm using right now. I'll add more to this list eventually. Like I said, next time I do this, I will go over hosting, and I'll talk about like Heroku, which is a great tool that lets you host stuff for basically free, as long as you don't need to be super speedy or anything like that, and you can pay to have it be faster. But I use them for all of my node type stuff. Okay, so this comment right here tells Express to treat the base directory as relative to the given directory, i.e. localhost colon 8080 slash img slash blush corresponds to public. Cool. I feel like this is somewhat self-evident what this does. Redirects to my Twitch page. Cool. What do I want to do next? I don't know what I want my page to look like yet also, which is I guess part of the thing. I guess I could sit here and like think about stuff like that live in front of a studio audience, but I don't know if that's the best use of the time either. But I do want to keep doing stuff because I've got time to stream today. Like I don't need to be brief about it. But I feel like I've covered maybe a lot of ground, maybe more than I realize. Almost certainly more than I realize, I guess, because a lot of this is becoming second nature to me. So yeah, and I'm also not sure how often, like, I want to make sure I'm reinforcing concepts, right? But I don't want to just every time I do a new step go over every previous step. Not because I necessarily think people need it, but because I feel like it might be helpful. So I'm not sure how often I should be summarizing, like where we are currently, I guess. I don't have a solid answer for that. Let's see. This is tells the that's a redundant. HTTP protocols like ATM machine, hypertext transfer protocol, server out of the Express server. Maybe kind of self-evident also. Starts the HTTP server. This is code to execute when the server. Yeah, and that's the code that executes when the server successfully starts. Timeframes is a good idea. I have been streaming for an hour now, so I will now reiterate what we've done over the past hour, I guess. We learned how to you clone your Git repo or wherever you want to put your thing. If you're not using, well, you kind of have to use Git, actually, if you want to deploy it somewhere. And that'll be part of what I go over later on a future stream for how to deploy this stuff. But you've got your area where you're building your code. You want to run npm init, npm standing for Node Package Manager. That will build a package.json for you like this, which is the manifest that tells other things that run npm what they need to know about your app so that they can also run it. We added our first npm dependency with npm install, which is Express, which is now helpfully listed under dependencies here. This will tell, when we try and deploy this later, it will tell the other server that downloads our code that it also needs to download Express. And npm install handles figuring out what the latest version is and adding it and managing the code. All of that ends up in this node modules folder, which you can see is huge. Like this, every green item on my left bar here is a node package that got installed along with Express. So you can see how it becomes very, very unmanageable for a human very fast, and why it's very good that Node Package Manager exists. Because I could not tell you that all of these things, which of them need what, but Node Package Manager is able to tell, because it's a very smart machine. So we've got our node modules. When you check in your code to version control, oh, actually, that's something I should do before I forget. Git ignore. So when you check in your code to Git, check it back in, you want to make sure that you don't check in the node modules folder, because that would be committing all of the code that's in all of these into your version control, which you don't need to do, because when you pull down your code, you can just run npm install, and it will know what to install again from blank slate. It's very, very file size efficient. It trusts that the recipients of the code on both ends basically know how to operate it, so that's important. So to do that, we create a file here called gitignore, and we just need to add node. Oh, I'm typing. Where am I typing? Node modules to it. And I believe then when I go to my terminal, yeah, okay, see, you can see that it stopped being green and it started being gray because now it knows that it is no longer being tracked by Git, which is important because we don't want to check that in. It's a huge amount of file size. Like, let me go check my file explorer right now. My node modules folder here is, well, this is very small because I have one dependency. It's 2 megabytes, which is not a lot. But the whole project folder right now is only 2.4 megabytes. So the node modules are a majority of it. And once you get more and more complex projects, beyond just simple web servers and things like that, you get very large, huge dependency chains that you don't want to always carry around with you. You want to be able to get them at the time that you need them and not before or after. Anyway, so yeah, we init our node package. We set it up with some very basic parameters. We did our npm install to get Express. We told it that the main file here is index.js, which then we started to fill in. Then we made our index.js file here. We got our HTTP server, our path joining utility. We used Express that we just installed. We created a new Express instance, I guess is what you'd call this, yeah. We made a function that will be executed when this index file runs. You could also just not put this in a function if you wanted to, and when index runs, it will just run from top to bottom. But I always put these in functions because reasons. We tell it what port we want it to run it on. We specify a directory to serve static files out of, base directory here. We are telling it to look relative to itself in a public folder. We specify that the Express server, when met with a request at the root level, should try and find an equivalent root level or an equivalent directory file out of public. That's what these two things do together. We specify a very, very basic get request for about to give you the static file about.html out of that base directory. And we specify when you go to /stream, it will give you a response where it redirects you to a different web page entirely, in this case, my Twitch page. We tell the server to be HTTP protocol, and we tell it to start up. And then when we run launch, it runs all of the above, because that's in a function. And that's what we are so far. We are able to run a web server. We know how to make it serve essentially arbitrary files. We got it to serve an image and this about page out of a static directory. And yeah, that's pretty much that. The anatomy of these things is you have your apt-get. You say what's the command basically we're listening for, the path we're listening for. It then wants a function to run with a request and a response passed in, and then you can do whatever you want here. As I think I showed in like more complicated code here, I've got like some very large functions that run. Oh gosh, this is not going to look good at large font size, but here's like to get files from that Subvault website that I was talking about. It does a very complex function to do like authentication to make sure you're actually, trying who you say you are, that you have permission to get these files. It figures out how to get them out of S3, which is where we host them all in a giant file store bucket. It has to specify changes to the response type to make sure that it understands that's a file and that it will be downloaded appropriately. all sorts of stuff like that. And then there's cases for you're not authorized. It has to do something different. It still has to handle your response. It just has to do it differently. Yeah, so you can put whatever code you want in here. It doesn't necessarily have to be returning something to the user. As a, I guess, fun tidbit, my I'm gonna peel back the curtain really quick right here. Let's go to here. Okay, cool. I'm not visible or nothing. You're looking at my background right now. And this is something that is actually, believe it or not, running a web server. It's running locally. It's just running on localhost with a different port, which is why I'm able to not interfere with the web server that I'm trying to run right now, and they don't intercept each other. But the reason I have it running a web server, and you might think, oh, that's ridiculous. Why would you do that? Is because I wanted to be able to do things like that should do it? No? Yeah? Hold on. Boom. Gameplay? There we go. I hit a button on my Stream Deck, my Elgato trademark, registered trademark Stream Deck, and it took me to a different scene in my stream layout. And instead of having to bind that to a hotkey like F9 or something like that, I have it running on a web server. So the way that works behind the scenes is my Stream Deck does an HTTP request to localhost/layout/gameplay, I think is the command, and the web server intercepts that, and it knows that that should then change the scene. And that way, I don't have to have a keyboard hotkey. I can have an unlimited number of like path requests that I can make. They're not bound to the number of keys I have on my keyboard, and I don't have to worry about accidentally hitting such a key while I'm playing a game. I can do like, I don't know if any of these work actually currently. I haven't tried them well. Oh yeah, here's one. Here's where I'm in front of the Katsucon gazebo. That's like slash chatting, for example. So my layout listens for a web server request. You can see here how I have no legs. Very, very good. I'm gonna go back to gameplay, and my layout listens accordingly, and that's how I can tell it to like end the stream and stuff too. It's all web requests running to a local server, so that I can do it from my Stream Deck without having to sacrifice a key on my keyboard because I don't have a numpad, so I have a very limited number of keys that I can use. Yeah, spooky, but it's useful. So the point of that whole field trip, that aside, is that you don't necessarily need to send files or web pages back. We're thinking of this in terms of like a browser where you make a request and you get something transactionally back sent to your browser. But a web request is just a way to tell code that's living on the internet to do something. Here we're using that code to say the thing you should do is give me back a file, or send me somewhere, give me a redirect. But you could have this do whatever it needs to do. It doesn't necessarily need to return a file back to a browser. You can execute whatever code you want in this request response callback. It can be telling OBS to do something, or doing a scene transition or something like that. It does not have to be like a quid pro quo. Here is your request. Here is your file response. It can be whatever. The internet is HTTP is just a method of telling code on a remote server to execute. It's very cool. Okay. Well, now that I've got something that technically works up and running here, let me comment this too for the sake of consistency. Browser. maybe self-evident, but yeah, that's fine. Okay, so now that I've got that all squared away, I'm going to pop my terminal back open. I'm gonna hide my notes because I don't need that right now. Or I guess I'll move them back to the corner here. I wish I could make terminal. I guess I can make my terminal bigger because I'm about to do something very important that people need to remember to do. So I'm gonna Control C, kill my server here because I need to use this terminal for something else. I'm gonna finally do git status. Cool. Okay. So here are all the files that Git wants me to add to Git. The git ignore, my index.js file, the package files, and the public directory and everything inside of it. Crucially, you'll notice here that we are missing this node modules folder because we do not want that to go to our Git repository. We don't want to save that to the cloud. There is no need. NPM already has all of those files on the cloud for us, and we can simply download them later to make this more transportable. So that's good that it's not here. The reason it's not here is because we added it to the git ignore file. This guy right here. Putting things in the git ignore says don't track it by git. In this case, it's slash, which indicates the directory, node modules. So that won't be added. But now I'm going to push this code to Git. So we do git add all. I am working on the main branch right now, which is not advisable once you get past the setup phase. Usually want to make your own branch so you can screw around with stuff without potentially breaking the latest stable version. But in this case, there is no stable version yet because we're just making it. So yeah. Git add all, git commit m, which stands for message. Git add -a, capital A adds everything. That's currently untracked. Git commit -m is the message command. Specifies what your commit message is to remind yourself or other people and collaborators what this change accomplishes. So this will be, pardon the pun, bare bones. Express server operational. Then we'd finally do git push. It default will do I think it knows where its upstream branches, but you can be very specific. You can do git push origin master, which is origin is the name of the repository. Pretty much universally, can't remember the last time I've seen one where that hasn't been the default case, though it doesn't necessarily have to be. Master is the branch name, so we're going to push this. I spelled master wrong. Cool, master. Here we go. Git push. And we're good. So the initial commit. If anybody wanted to follow along at home or download this for their own and poke around with it, github.com. Wait, I think I had my GitHub open on my localhost browser, right? Let's go to hotkeys, show localhost, right here. Let's see. If you want to follow along at home, where's OBS? There's OBS. You can simply go there. It is public. It is open source. You can view all of the code that I've written. I will now hide my terminal because it's blocking the entire screen. I will refresh, and now there's code here where there previously wasn't. This is a very good piece of advice. Help people interested in this repository understand your project by adding a README. I should do that. I should definitely do that if I want this to be open source and actually helpful and instructional. Yeah, we could do that now, actually. Let's do that. That's a nice Zen thing to do. So right in the root, we're going to do README.md. 1 second, I am receiving a message. Hell yeah. Yeah, so Git knows that if you have a file called readme.md, MD standing for Markdown, which is like it's just another syntax. If you've used Discord, you've unknowingly used Markdown, because like when you do --bold, that's Markdown. When you try and format like something like code, that's Markdown. And Discord has that support inline, so you've probably unknowingly used Markdown, even if you don't think you'd have. But you probably have. So let's see. We're gonna do let's do Skeletom.net, which is the domain that I have that I'm going to host this on. Skeletom.net, because I love a good .net, and also .com was taken. I don't know by who, but it was taken. So these little, in Markdown language, these pound signs, hashtags, indicate like level of heading. One, actually I can do, hold on. Open preview. Yes. And I'm going to hide my tools thing now, because, oh, I keep saying I'm going to hide it, and then I'm like, I should just move it, actually. I'll move it. Okay, here we go, side by side. Side by side. So we have our Markdown file on the left, and on the right is how it actually will end up looking. So skeletom.net, and it knows that it's a URL, which doesn't go anywhere yet, but I appreciate its tenacity to try. This repository serves the home for Skeletom's new personal website. And so we can see we're getting the preview on the right-hand side in real time. So you can easily noodle around with how Markdown looks. He will be continuing to build rest of it on stream. Oh yeah, and I can also do like enter for a new line, and its code base will remain open source. So I think that's the best way to teach people, is just have this stuff be open source. Okay, so the about. Tools used. Let's see, we've done VS Code. The little asterisk is for unordered list like this. They're bullet points. So let's see, I've used command line git VS Code Node.js and npm. Cool. Oh, to run. This, again, would be something that would be, I think, very self-evident if somebody came here knowing what they were looking for. A lot of repos don't have stuff. Well, that's not true. A lot of them have, like, how to compile or whatever. It depends on what you're looking for. But I want people who have no real web dev experience to be able to noodle around with this. So let's include some really granular steps. One? Yeah, there we go. JS and npm. Two. Clone slash download, because even if you don't want to clone, you can actually download git. Let's go back to localhost here. You can actually download this, I believe, as just a zip, even if you don't really want to have to interact with Git. If you just wanted to noodle around with this on your own, you could do that. So you could get this, I guess, starter kit and not need to worry about downloading it from Git or anything like that. So if that's how people want to do it, they can do that. Clone, download the Git repo. 3. Terminal type node index.js. Oh yeah, so here's a great example of Markdown. You can see the little, I don't know what they're called, M dash kind of thing, uh, formatting text as code. I do this for commands. This is very common. You'll see this on like Stack Overflow type sites, where people format things that are like verbatim code or commands in a special way so that they stick out. I do this all the time. How to run? And then 5. Boom. Okay, that's pretty concise. How to run. Install your node.js, which I think that's lowercase j, and npm. Clone or download the Git repo. This Git repo. In terminal, or I should... In terminal. There we go. Just so people aren't confused, command line and terminal mean the same thing. Command line, yeah, they're the same. I don't need to elaborate further. They mean the same thing. I'm just using the stock standard Windows one. There are more sophisticated ones you can get that are like third party, but whatever. So yeah, in terminal, you navigate to the project, type npm install, download all dependencies. In terminal, so when you run npm install, it will read that package file and it will fill up this node modules folder with all the good shit that you need to run the good powerful code. It just knows it can figure it out. It's so impressive. It's great. So you run that so you can get all the dependencies you need. Otherwise, when you try and run, it'll be like unsatisfied dependency Express. I don't know what the hell that means. There's no Express in this file directory. You're crazy, but it can get that for you. Then once still in terminal, type node index.js like we've been doing to run the server. Then you navigate to localhost and it's there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's add this README. Git add. Or let's just make sure we haven't changed anything else. Status. Oh, and I got to pop terminal back on my screen. This is the real fun juggling act, is like, I've got 5 different windows that I need to show at any given point. Having 2 monitors is a big help for this, but I can't stream 2 monitors, unfortunately. So I have to keep like toggling things on and off. Let's see. Git status. Oh yeah, I just did that. README is the only file we've changed, so where it's safe to do git add all. You can also do like git add README.md, which would just add the README instead of adding every file, but I pretty much always do git add all. I just always make sure I check what I've changed first. There are very few instances where I'd want to add just one file or a couple files. Let's see, git commit them added. And then git push. Easy. It's a very small file, so it goes very quickly. We flip back to the GitHub website. If I refresh, there's our README in plain view for everybody to look at, embedded on the page. Nice. So now when I share this with people over Twitter later, they will be able to look at this, and even if they're relatively new to the whole concept of web dev, they will see, okay, here are the tools that he used. Do I have these things? Yes, no. How to run it. You can do these. Clone and download the Git repo. Navigate to the project and type npm install. I spelled dependencies wrong. The only thing I don't like about VS Code is it never ever tries to spell check me, which the IDE I use for work, IntelliJ for Java and TypeScript does, which is nice sometimes. Other times it's not nice because they'll be like, your variable name is incorrect, and I'm like, I know it's an abbreviation. It's fine. You don't need to tell me if my variables are real words. Let's get fixed README typo. That was just me hammering away in terminal. I don't even care about bringing it up right there. I'm just pushing the change to the README so that I can get rid of this awful typo. If I refresh, it should be gone. Yes. Okay. Cool. That's just wonderful. Yeah. Okay. And on our localhost side, we've got our wonderful picture of my face. Oh, you know what I'm gonna do actually in this README? I'm going to add pretty much exactly what I just went over. Let's see. It's gonna be like this. About history, I guess is what this would be. And it would do 2, 3, July 17th, 2021. And then I can do stuff like I'm not showing VS Code. There we go. I'm going to add a history section to this README. Like git commit history is obviously like what that's for, but like the reason you do commits and you leave messages, you can look at the history that way. But what I want to include here is like, okay, what did we go over in this particular stream? Because as Angela suggested, maybe it would be really helpful every half hour to go over that kind of stuff, and I'd like people to be able to know like where we ended up, what you can expect when you jump into this project. So let's see, ran npm init to package JSON file. We ran npm install Express to download the Express server library. What else? Then we very basic web server setup. Files, HTML. So we informed Express where to serve static files from. All right. We added an example redirect endpoint to the server. What else have we done? Anything? That's pretty much it. It feels like very little to have covered in an hour and a half, but that's what I get for over-explaining every single step of the process. So yeah, I think I want to do something like this as a good way to review and to give people who are watching the Git, if anyone, like where they can expect the project to be, I guess. And I could do like end. I'll include a little summary here, I guess. Can I do 4 of these? 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that even do anything? Not really. That's fine. Drizzle. Okay. Do people think this would be helpful to include like a written summary, basically, of what I've done at the end of each stream? Which is to say, I think I'm feeling like I might wrap up in a little bit here because it's been like an hour and a half, and I don't really have a particular game plan for where to go next. And I don't want to go like too into the weeds yet. I should come up with some good ideas for what I want to actually have it look like. I'm sure it would be helpful. Hello, the NAB 0303. Yeah, documentation is always helpful, yeah. Nice to meet you, by the way. I don't believe I've met you before. So thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Yeah, like this is less documentation on like, oh, how does this code work? Like the step above, this is like, how does this work? How do I run this or whatever? Oh, I feel bad like shutting down the stream. Maybe I can keep going then. I don't know. Yeah, today I wanted to go over like how to make a new web page from scratch, right? I have a, let's see, can I close this? I have a personal website that I've not updated literally since I was in college, which is not useful anymore. And I've changed as a person. I'm like, I do streaming now. I want to have like a new website that reflects my current interests and isn't more like a college portfolio. So I figured a really good exercise in making sure that I know what I'm talking about and maybe being interesting to other people would be if I demonstrate how to build a web server and website together. So today we went over how to do that. I was able to take I'm going to close this preview because it's getting in the way. I was able to take a couple lines of JavaScript here. We can get it to serve static files. We have a redirect that points to my stream from my top level domain. And when we run it in terminal, which I'm going to pop back up here, terminal, and make much smaller. And I'm going to move my notes back to the top of the screen again. Please write things down for everyone after you, yeah. So now when I run the web server, like I can do node index.js. It'll start up our server, like it says, on port 8080 here, which is these lines behind it. I swap over to my localhost, and you get this very basic, boring, static. That was really loud. Oops. This very basic page, but it's coming out of our web server. When we check our inspect, we can see that it is in fact the HTML that we told it to write. So that's what's going on here. I think my next stream of this will be less chatty of me explaining what each step of the process does, and I will probably be more just doing stuff and trying to do just talking at the same time. Like chatting about whatever. Doesn't have to be web dev related, but I felt like for day one, it would be really cool to show people how to set up something like this. And I feel like that might give them a good springboard into being able to do this kind of stuff on their own for whatever their projects happen to be. So that's what's going on here. It's a brand new type of stream for me. Usually I stream like retro games or things like that. I'm a game streamer, I guess, currently. I want to do model building on stream, but I haven't gotten around to it. I don't have like a good desk space to facilitate like a hand cam. Oh, hell yeah. Thank you for joining the Skeleton crew. As they say, if it does not say RIP on your tombstone, you're conscripted into the Skeleton War. So thanks for joining. Your service will not go unappreciated. Thank you very much for the follow. I don't have a very regular streaming schedule, but I always post it for the week, typically on Sundays. I don't think I've actually posted a schedule on Sundays in a while, but I try and get them out on Sundays on my Twitter, which is in the bottom left. It is Fomtaro at FOMTARRO. That's where you can find my next upcoming stream plans, etc., etc. That's where I tweet about when I'm going to stream. I'm just getting into React at the moment. I just know the basics: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Well, then you are probably well and away doing probably this is probably beneath you then. I guess the key difference though is like well, no, React is server side because it's all server side rendering. Yeah, that was also something we went over at the start of the stream, was the difference between browser side and server side JavaScript, because there is a difference, which you probably know. We're writing server side JavaScript code right now, which is different. We will get to front end JavaScript at some point, I'm sure, but not right now. That will be served as a static file, just like how the images get served. Yeah. Let me finish up writing my end result here. Out of the public file directory, let me open up can I open my preview again? Because that was actually helpful. Open preview. Cool, okay, so the end result, an unstyled homepage that includes static text and a static image being served out of the public file directory by Express. Yeah, okay, that's pretty much where we ended up with. Can I, like, bold this? Would that be better to look at? No, that's italics. How many asterisks for bold? 2. 1, 2. 2. Cool, that looks good. So now when people come to the repo, which I will tweet about and include every time I do this stream, they can see, okay, here's how I get this up and running if I wanted to myself. And here's what happened on this stream. We ran all of these commands to get something set up. We informed the server where to serve static files from. We added an example redirect endpoint to the server. That's another thing that I did that I can show for the latecomers. If I go into my browser here and change this to localhost 8080/stream, right here, it will redirect to my Twitch page, which is good because, as I think I mentioned, I was considering changing my Twitch handle here from Fomtaro to like Skeletom if I can get it, or something similar. And I'd like to be able to just give people a single URL that will handle getting them to my stream no matter what that stream URL ends up being. So I'm going to have that be a redirect. That's very useful. We're in the Hall of Mirrors now. It's just going to go forever. Pretty cool. Yeah. The Neb, you mentioned that you are into React, etc. Are you doing that like as a hobbyist level? Is it like professional? What brings you to the JavaScript ecosystem, I guess? I'm curious. I'm always interested to know what people are up to. Especially with web dev type stuff like this. Yeah, let me commit these changes to my README. Just doing it on my own. Hell yeah. I enjoy programming. Hell yeah, brother. We love to hear it. Yeah. Do you have like a project in mind? Are you trying to achieve like a specific thing? You making a website for yourself? Making like a web app, like a game type thing? I shouldn't pry. I'm curious though. It's always nice to hear what people are working on. I actually, speaking of server-side JavaScript and Node and stuff, I actually just finished writing like the v1.0 of a very, very bespoke Discord bot that does very, very specific things for a very specific server that I'm a member of. And that was a lot of fun to learn how to write, because that's like all server-side stuff. And that's another example of like, when you make a request, it doesn't necessarily have to serve back a web page. It just needs to execute code that is running somewhere. And that's how Discord bots work. You give them like a command through like your / commands in your Discord, and they do something on their end, but they don't necessarily immediately send you back like a web page or anything. They, increment a number, they execute some kind of function to like do whatever. Fun to have some things made before I'd like to remake React. I personally find React very stressful. it's very good at what it does. If you want like really slick server-side rendering, uh, which is like when the server, for anybody else who doesn't know, the NAB I'm sure knows what I'm talking about because they are talking about React. There are basically two ways you can have a web page show up on your browser. There's browser-side rendering, which is like what CSS is largely responsible for, making the page and assembling it together. You could have JavaScript running in your browser that modifies the page that it's a part of. And then there is server-side rendering, which is when you have the server dynamically construct, like we built our index HTML page here, and it's static. I keep saying this phrase, static files. It's not changing. It's a file. You give the file. There's nothing that's dynamic about it whatsoever. But React and other types of libraries like that do what's called server-side rendering, or dynamic pages, where the server will actually generate an HTML file, compile an HTML file for you based on all of these different components that you've written programmatically in the React language. And then it will make one that is custom tailored to the request that was made for it. And it will serve it to the client as like a bespoke artifact, basically. And so that is... I'm a fan of server-side rendering. I think it's good. It offloads a lot of the overhead from the client to the server, which is typically stronger. I do not like React, though, personally. I feel like it is overkill. It is a very large library that's very like overwhelming when you really just need to do DOM modification, which means DOM is the document object model, which is like what all this is. This is the DOM. But yeah, React is cool. I'm just not. I think it's overwhelming. It's too sophisticated for my needs. The page that I end up building here will not be using React. Sorry to say. Anyway, let's add that change to the README. Get added, get commit, and added version. And push. All right, yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that's where I'm gonna call it. I've been streaming for about two-ish hours now, which is good. I'm kind of out of stuff I wanted to cover in like the Let's Build a Website, literally 101. Next time I stream this, I don't know when that might be. It might be as early as tomorrow. Frankly, I don't have much planned yet in the day tomorrow. But I might be able to find some time tomorrow. Future iterations of this will probably be less me explaining what each like little line does, or like what my tools are as much. What do you plan on adding to the site? I will get to that in a moment. So I'm gonna probably like do styling and like actual flesh out the HTML to like look like something presentable. And I'll probably just be doing that while just chatting about unrelated things, because it's easier than trying to give a lecture about these things. So now to answer your question, what do you plan to add into the site? I really don't need it to be anything terribly complicated. I want it to be, there's like a site that I see a lot of people use. It's like Card. I think it has 2 R's in it, like card.io or something, where it's basically just like, who am I? Here's a picture of me. Here's some relevant links, like here's my socials. Here's how you can get to my stream. I have a couple other web projects that I've made that I would like to have like direct links to, as like a directory, basically. My plan for this website, Skeletom.net, would just basically be like a top-level tree that can get you to all the other stuff that I've worked on, like my stream, like my Twitter, other web projects, and then you can navigate from there. But the website itself is basically just going to be a directory where it's like, here's where you can find out other stuff about me. Like a digital business card kind of thing. Speaking of web projects, though, before I forget, Subvault. Let's see, subvault.net. Here's a website that I built maybe about 2 months ago now, that I at the time had no use for because I was not a Twitch affiliate. I'm not a partner yet. God. Um, this is an example of a really, really bare bones, like basically unstyled website, but it was sufficient for my needs. And this is subvault.net. It is a site that lets you host files behind a your Twitch account. So like if you are a subscriber to one of these people, you would then be able to access files that they host. You can be like, audio files, like they can do like voice recordings or whatever, code, images, what have you. My vision for this was like a Patreon type thing where, instead of having to make an account with the site, you make an account with Twitch, and you can use your already existing Twitch login type thing, and it can be like a bit of a value add to subscriptions. But at the time, I was not a affiliate, and now I am. So I'm starting to think about what kind of stuff I'd want to put here, because I don't know. So that's me. Didn't ask me to log in. I'm not sure why. I should check that this site is in fact still working, because it should have asked me to log in with Twitch. There we go. Yeah, so you can see, like, I've got these exciting files, like the blush file that I used in my localhost page here. Yes, this uses the Twitch API. Yes. It does SSO, single sign-on with Twitch. It checks to see if you're a subscriber, or at least it's supposed to. Last time I checked this, it did. Of the given account. Oh, right, You don't need to be a subscriber to view the page. You would need to be a subscriber to download the files. So you can see what files different people have, but you wouldn't actually be able to download them unless you're a subscriber and logged in. So let's see. Or you are the guy who has the files. So yeah, that's a site that I'm working on. So for example, the site that I'm going to work on next on this stream is going to probably have a link to subvault.net and be like, here's a project that I worked on that you can check out, and have like a little bit of a blurb about it. And there are a couple other web projects that I've worked on too. Does the new Twitch API have to use a server? I don't understand the question, unfortunately. Does the new Twitch API... Like, are you saying, can you do it in browser? Yeah. I would assume you can. Because it's all just GET request, right? You do a GET request to the Twitch Twitch API server, and it gives you back a response, and you can digest that response. And you can do that in browser too. I'm doing it on the server end because that's how security works, but depending on what your needs are, I think you could probably do it in browser, if I understood your question correctly. I'm not sure that I did. Yeah, so like I can download these, and it should let me because I am the person. And then there's, like, I've got other users, like Inwa here, who I'm not a subscriber to, so I don't think I am able to download this file. It should tell me no. Yes, permission denied. Files belonging to Inwa are available only to their subscribers, because I'm logged in and not a subscriber, but I should be. You can check out their channel. This is a good time to plug Bonbombs, who is somebody I stream with frequently. You can check out their channel as well. What info I was trying to get. I was lost. You might need it to be a server because I think you have to supply it with a application key, so they know who's making these requests. Like, I registered this app as I'm not going to open it up here because I don't know if it'll accidentally dox myself. I don't remember what information's on the dashboard, but there's like a Twitch developer dashboard console. You can make a new application there, and it'll give you a key, and then I believe when you make the requests to the different endpoints, you need to provide that key. So I think, yeah, it does need a server, because you obviously don't provide a secure key in the client. The client end can't have that information, and you'd never want to serve it to them. So yeah, I think it has to be a server, now that you mention it. But I don't know, there's like a whole host of different things you can get out of Twitch from their API, and I'm not sure if all of them require that key or not, or if there are some things that are just public. But like things like, are you subscribed to this account, are locked behind authorization, which you need to provide. Yeah. This site, if you're interested in it, by the way, is also open source. Potential security vulnerabilities in your dependencies. Only the owner of this repository can see this message. Uh-oh. I'll check that out. Thank you. Yeah, so if you're interested in how I set this up, if you want to see how the Twitch API works, there you go. Feel free to check out my GitHub. This is public, completely open source. And I think there's a README, but I don't know if there's anything useful in the README. Oh yeah, it's just like, what tools did I use? Yeah, so I hope that's helpful. Maybe, I don't know. I'm happy to like look at some of this stuff with you. Now I've like completely been derivative here. Like I've got some adapters for getting to Twitch. I made like a Twitch API client. Yeah, so like you contact api.twitch.tv, you got an endpoint, and I believe you provide a token somehow, some way, somehow. Maybe not. Maybe you don't need a token. Huh. Oh no, duh. It's right in front of me. Token. Yes. And you get this from your... Zoom this in. You get this from registering your application as a application on the developer API. And so you would not be able to... Though you can make HTTP requests from the client, you would never want to do one that has to be secured from the client, because that would mean that the client, or the browser, has your security information, which is not safe. So yeah, you want it to be a server. And then you can do something like this. Here's your broadcaster ID, and here's the user, and we get back some information about them. Get user info. Yeah. So feel free to check out that repo if you want some concrete examples of how to use the Twitch API. If you want to pick my brain, which is pretty easy to pick now that I don't have skin anymore, you can tweet at me on Twitter, at Valentaro again. I'm happy to answer questions about this kind of stuff. That's what I like to do. Yeah. So yeah, anyway, so all of this was long tangent on question of what do you want your new site to do, and it's basically going to be point out projects like this one that I've worked on in the past, have a link to my stream, maybe to my YouTube page for like the VODs and things like that, maybe like highlight reel clip type things, give like a high level summary of who I am, and just basically be a navigation page for all the stuff that I've worked on in one place. That's the plan. So I got to come up with some kind of nice presentable design for that. As you can see from Subvault here, I'm not like amazing at visualizing a great layout. This to me was serviceable because it was supposed to be like a file directory. There is actually CSS going on here, even though it doesn't look like it. But to get like the image on the side and like have a border and font weighting and things like that are actually styled, but it's styled to look in such a way that it is unstyled. It's like just the lightest touch of styling. Yeah. That's something. I worked on another website recently. Let's see if that's still kicking. randomco.co. This was for Kokokiryu's graduation, because she graduated at the top of the month, and I don't have any ability to draw and create visual art in that way. And I wanted to show her how much I appreciated her, and wanted to thank her for the like year and a half of memories that we were able to make thanks to her. So I built a website because that's all I know how to do. And it's very similar. As you can see, it's got like the same kind of nav bar and everything, because I had about a week to get this going, because she announced that she was going to retire on the, I think it was the 8th. And then at the end of the month was her retirement. So I didn't have a whole lot of time. I have a full-time job on top of that. So I didn't really have a lot of time to do web dev, so I was able to recycle what I had. But this is like a really dumb, simple little toy. It just serves up random clips from Kokokiryu. We had like almost 2,000 submissions that I then had to do data entry on and process and tag. So this is like another site that I would link to as an example of a previous web project. Things like that. I hope that answers the question of what I want the website to do. I don't know if that's a satisfying answer, but it is. Oh yeah, and so like when you run this, you hit... There we go. Great clip. One of my favorites, actually. That's very fortunate. You can sort by language. So like if you want only English clips, you can get that. Japanese works. If you want ones from the meme review, you can do shitty Japanese. Yeah. So hopefully, this has been enjoyed. This is also open source on my GitHub, I believe. Pretty much everything I build these days is open source. There's no reason for it not to be. I'm not making money off of this. There's no secret here. There's nothing proprietary. They all just have licenses that are like, if you're gonna copy this, you gotta point to where you got it from, and you can't sell it because it's not for sale. But you can make a derivative of it if you wanted to, etc., etc. All the clips here are like indexed, so like I could search for like wholesome, and it will give me back all the clips that are tagged as such in a big ordered list. I could probably have made this a lot prettier, but I really did just run out of time, unfortunately. And yeah, if you click on these, it'll take you to the main page with the embed, and you can share it. So like you could go to here, and it'll just work. Stuff like that. This clip makes me cry every time. It's really sweet. But yeah, that's another website that I've worked on recently. I'm working on, like I said, a Discord bot, which is also open source, which is a very, very like niche thing, but it's still open source and it's still kind of neat to see how it works. I'm making it interface with a website that, as far as I can tell, nobody in at least the English-speaking world has made plugins to interface with before. It's like it's a streaming site, but it's primarily used overseas. So there's not like a lot of English language documentation, at least I know how to find, or like NPM libraries or anything like that that interface with it. So I've kind of been flying blind and being a pioneer on that front. So I made it open source as well. That kind of indicates how you can interface with that website if you wanted to. Because they have like a good API and it like works as you'd expect, and it's intuitive, but you have to like get that first step and that seed of knowing like where to even start looking. Because like it's like, okay, yeah, you connect to a WebSocket and then you listen for events. What are the events named? I don't know. But once you know what events you're listening for, you can get back data from them, and it's really intuitive, and it's like a good way to build things. But they don't have developer documentation, at least that I can find. Again, it may be out there, it just may be in Japanese, and therefore it's not coming up on, my search engine searches. But, it is what it is. So that's open source. That's something I'd point to on this site. Yeah, and it's just going to be a major directory of all the stuff that I've worked on that I think is cool, and tie that in with like, here's also where I stream, because that's the other half of what I do, other than dumb bullshit software. Yeah, okay. I'm definitely done now. Thank you for tuning in. I'm gonna see now if there's anybody for me to raid. Let's check. Who's live? Do I know anyone who's live right now? I don't actually think there's anyone I know that's live. So I think I'm gonna actually just end the stream all normal like. Yeah, okay. So that's gonna be me. I'll post my schedule for the upcoming times when I plan on working on this in the future. Maybe I'll get the schedule up tomorrow night. I might stream again tomorrow night. If I do, it'll be on my Twitter. It may be more web dev. It might be something else. The game I've been playing currently, I've had 2 of them. Yeah, thank you. I don't know if the game type streams interest you, but I'm always happy to have people stop by. If you want to pick my brain about web dev while I'm playing a game, I certainly don't mind. Like it is, I am here to chat. Like I am a VTuber. I am a social presence on the internet. The games are just a thing to do while we talk. But the games that I've been playing, if they're interesting to you, I've been playing Dark Cloud for the PlayStation 2 on my PlayStation 2. I've got a pretty cool setup to actually stream off of the original launch day hardware, which is fun and no short of technical headaches, but it's nice because it's crispy and it's authentic. And then the other game that I'm playing is Fire Emblem Three Houses for the much more modern Switch, because I have never played a Fire Emblem game before. I don't really think they interest me, but I made a deal with somebody that I would play one in exchange for them playing a game that I wanted them to play, so I have to make good on my end of the bargain. So that's the other game I've been playing. I feel like I might just try and get through Fire Emblem before I go back to Dark Cloud, because I think switching between 2 games on a day, like with my existing schedule where I can stream at most 3 times a week, is kind of really slow, and it's probably more engaging to just have every stream be the same game, so people know what they're getting into and what they're coming back to. But I have to think about it. I don't know. One of my friends, Mari, she's been streaming Earthbound, and that's like all she does right now. Every time she does a stream, it will be we are continuing our blind playthrough of Earthbound, and I think that's really good and smart, because viewers know immediately what they're getting into every time she goes live, and it means that she will actually get through her thing instead of leaving it half done, or like on a hiatus kind of thing. So I might try and adopt that strategy before I pick up more games to play. But we'll see. I don't know how long Fire Emblem is. If it's like really long and it stops me from doing anything else, that might be a problem too. I'm kind of also going into it blind. But I digress. Yes, you can find my schedule on my Twitter. I will tweet about it very loudly. Stop by anytime, tweet at me, come in the chat if you want to ask me about web dev or other technical type questions. I love talking about this kind of stuff. I want to really genuinely try and be helpful and informative with these kind of educational streams or conversations. I do not think web dev is like a mystery or like anything magic. I think anybody can at least do basic level making their own website type stuff if they really want to. So I'm happy to help them try to dispel the air of mystery around it. And that's going to be it for me. Since there doesn't seem to be anybody to raid, I'm going to refresh Twitch one more time. Is there anybody I know who's live? No, okay. It's just like GDQ and Salty Bit are the things that are telling me that it's alive right now. Okay. So with that, I will conclude the stream. Thank you all for stopping by. I need a good bone-themed outro also. Like when I sign on every morning, I'm like, Buongiorno, Skelo, things like that, which is good. It's holistic, it's organic. It tells you that I'm a skeleton, and you need to know that essential information. But I don't know a good, like, farewell type thing that is skeleton related. If anybody has a good one, again, tweet at me. I would love to know. I guess I could just say Buongiorno again. It's not quite nighttime yet, so I can't be like Buonasera or Buonanotte, though I do that at night. I don't know. Anyway, goodbye, farewell, thank you for stopping by. We'll see each other again before too long. And that's it for me. Scenes end.